This is the Pro Audio Suite podcast. Quick Bites.
And welcome to another Pro Audio Suite Quick Bite. Just want to start this one by just saying Grace Design looked after me very well, and in fact, I'm sure they look after all their clients equally as well. But my M101 was a very early one, and there was an issue with some of the pots, internal pots. Sent it back to Grace. They've replaced everything, updated everything, and sending it back to me. And the fee for the update? Free.
Wow, isn't that nice?
I just had to pay for postage, which I think that's great support.
You know what that is?
Love it.
You know what that is? That's a gracious gesture.
Oh, boom tish. We're off already. But now you're a buddy of Eben's, aren't you, George?
Oh yeah, I've mountain biked with Eben and had tacos with Eben. Yeah, they're great people. Their stuff is very high value for what you pay.
Yeah,
and really well made. And clearly, they stand behind their product. The stuff does not have a lifetime warranty, but that's almost basically a lifetime warranty. To send something in that old and have it not only repaired but better than when you sent it in is that's great. And they can do that because they're not fixing these dang things day in, day out. They're well made. They don't generally need any repair. It's rare that they need it. So that's cool.
I have to say my experience with companies is that they usually, more of them don't repair stuff once they have their out legally, like they have to support something for 7 years or whatever it is. And often they're like, we don't have parts. I lost a knob for something, like simple thing like that. They're just like, we don't have parts. And the one company I know that also will still at least put something on the bench that they do charge you is Telos will still even fix up some of those old 9202 SDN
25-year-old box,
which is great. Yeah. Meanwhile, some other companies, I won't name them, but won't support their stuff after 7 years.
And some even less. I had an issue with a very well-known English brand of preamplifier, and it wasn't the preamp, it was the compressor. Had an issue with it. It was only probably 2 years old, and it should have lasted a lot longer than that before it needed any repairs. But so there you go. That's the difference between Grace Design and many of the competitors.
It's okay if they charge even, but support your stuff and provide.
Yeah.
Don't expect me to buy another one of your product if you won't fix your old one. Because it's like that's just motivation to go to your competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very least, don't try and sell me on your quality if you won't back it up with a repair guarantee or something like that.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah, and I've become friends with another mountain biking buddy here where I live now, who is a repair technician in town. They are the official Avalon repair shop. Antelope Audio. They're the only U.S. audio repair place for Antelope. And, the problem they have is with certain companies, I'll call them out. Antelope will not send them anything more than a board. So if something is wrong on a board, they can't fix it because they don't have schematics. They won't be given schematics. They have to wait for a Bulgarian company to ship them a board to fix something. Yeah. Which takes a very long time. It costs a lot of money. So when you buy your products, know who makes them, know where they're made and how they support them. Because when you need support and you need it fixed, if you're going to be waiting 2-3 weeks or longer, because the repair house can't even get schematics, that's something to be concerned about. So, it's maybe not thinking about that on a $300 product that's made in China, but on a $6,000 piece of gear, that's something you might want to think about when you buy something.
Yeah,
this is exactly the thing. And also how long they're going to support it, not just physically, but more and more these days, how they're going to support it software-wise. The entire experience that all the Pro Control and Control 24 users had, I think, is, it's a tough one to go through. You buy something that is so central to your studio that it's your furniture, it's your monitor controller, it's also your controller for your workstation, and then what seems to be pretty arbitrarily, they decide, we don't support it on the next version of software. That's rough.
That's nuts. Yeah, really.
It's like, granted, it's been out for 10 years or whatever, but unless there's a real reason why, like we can't support it because of this and that technical thing. But essentially, we don't want to. Like, charge us for a update software, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. And we've also noticed, Robert, that you're sounding rather good this week. You're not on a train. You're not in a car.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, can you hand me a beer from the fridge, please, mate?
One moment. Hold on. I do happen to be 6 feet from my fridge. Can you hear
Yes,
it?
perfect. We can. So
But no,
tell us
I
the new rig.
yeah.
What's going on?
Well, basically, I finally got some gear to replace everything that I had lost. And
Stolen,
yes. Stolen, yes. And so what I decided to go with was a Zoom H6. I found it to be just a very flexible thing. Not really, if you look at it and think about it, not much bigger than something like a Shure X2U. What is it? Maybe 3 of those? And I was also considering some like the Centrance mixer face and a number of other small interfaces. And basically what I thought is that this one seemed to have the broadest spread of features. It stands alone on its own, but it's also an audio interface, and it's multi-track. You can even get an extension on the front that gives you 6 total XLR inputs, which for a lot of people is like, who cares? But I do a fair amount of music recording and whatnot. And so, yeah, I've only had it for about 3 hours now, to be honest, but easy enough just to plug and go. And I haven't looked at the multi-track interface feature so far, but I'm just using it in its stereo mode, and that pretty much popped up right away. Chrome at first wasn't too happy with it.
Did you have to RTFM, read the freaking manual just to get it to work? Or was it easy
I did download the manual, but I didn't. So here's what happened. I basically hooked it up, didn't read the manual, pretty easily dove into the menus and put it in interface mode. Figured that probably something like the multi-track mode is harder to deal with the stereo mode. So I just went straight for the stereo mode, opened up Source Connect now and made it my input, my output. And at first I didn't hear anything coming out. And I couldn't get that figured out. I did go to the manual. The manual had nothing for me. It was all the obvious stuff that you could find without reading the manual. And then I refreshed the page on Source Connect now and toggled something. And then all of a sudden, boom, I got output. And that was the only sort of stumbling I had at all. Besides that, it's pretty easy to figure out without the manual. I mean, it's not overly complicated, but it seems to have a pretty good set of features, I think.
It's got physical knobs, right? Like it's got physical gain knobs, actual pots, not little clicky buttons.
Yeah, it's got 4 gain knobs for the 4 XLR inputs. And the gain knobs are pretty solid, but they're a little bit wiggly. One thing that's nice is they got a plastic shield so that you're not going to knock them out from the outside. Like, it's not likely that you're going to move them by accident. It's got 4 pad switches. Phantom power is individual per port, but it is software controlled. That was a little bit annoying to find, but not bad. And then, so going down from the front panel, those 4 knobs and the 4 pad switches, you basically have 6 track arms in the form of a left, right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the audio interface, actually 1 is 3 because left, right is 1 and 2, but not a big deal. In stereo mode, the audio interface has a mixer in it, and it will mix all 6 inputs to stereo. So that's kind of cool. And then you got your stop, fast forward, rewind, record buttons, and a pause, which is the same as the play. On the side, you basically have a menu button that gets you into the menu structure, and then a up-down toggle that's also a push button for like select. So that's the whole GUI or user interface, is just the menu button and then like up or down and OK.
I don't know if you've had it long enough to know if it can do this, but can it record 6 tracks and a mix down simultaneously? Or is it?
No,
it's
I
either
doubt it can do 6 tracks and a mix down. It might do 4 tracks and a mix down. It might do that. Right. I don't know.
I've done a bit of reading. It doesn't do any mix down. Unless, you could take the stereo mix out into something else, I guess, would be the only way to do that.
You can take the stereo mix out into the USB interface, but basically the 6 tracks are the 6 tracks if there's no usage. It does have it. It's basically presented as 1 stereo and 4 individual tracks. So it doesn't seem to have a mix down, but I don't know that. It does have a loopback feature, though, where it will record, and this does come into play with podcasting and things like that. It will record what's coming out of your computer. back into what you're recording. And now if you're doing this in stereo mode, you could put yourself on one side and maybe you can pan the computer to the other side, something like that. I haven't played with it too much, but it does have that ability to, I believe, capture what's coming out of the computer.
I've also seen you can buy a shotgun mic capsule for those.
It has
things.
a shotgun mic, it has a XLR pod, and then it has an MS mic and an XY mic that it comes with. And most of the mics have a little gain knob on them. And what's funny is actually the MS mic also has a little 1/8" input if you wanted to do like crappy line input -10 stuff or something.
Right.
So it's
cool.
pretty kitted out. And then the fact that it can work as an audio interface, multi-channel audio interface, although it would be sweet if it had 2 extra outputs. That would have been amazing. And then, and it works with iPads, possibly iPhones, only in stereo mode, however. And then the price point, sitting at the same price point as things like a mixer face or, I don't know. I got it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely more flexible, more features for the bang for the buck. That's what Zoom...
It lacks a good mixer between what the return from the computer and your low latency monitor. It's kind of like the Centrance mic port. It's like the original mic port Pro. You just there's your mix 50-50.
I see.
Mix it in your computer if you have the option. If not, sorry.
Gotcha.
That was the one. That's really the only one thing I was like a little bit bummer on. So far, the preamps seem clean enough. Certainly,
I mean, we're not hearing any like elevated hiss. We can hear the room.
It's hard to tell with the fridge in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
although I have to say, by the time Robbo's worked his magic on this, no one will be hearing the fridge. But
Yeah,
that's right. It's going to be RX'd right out of there, isn't it?
That's it. Exactly.
Totally. Here, in fact, let's all take a moment of silence so you can get a fingerprint of the noise. Dude, my earplug fell out of my head.
You only need a quarter of a second.
That's it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you have a kit now that you can use for the show consistently, and looking forward to finding more cool ways you make use of it, because it's the modularity of it, the ability to plug in different microphone systems is pretty slick. So it should be fun. I mean, the fact that I think one thing that's cool about these is you can record a stereo XY or MS and then 4 tracks of ISO. So if you want to record a live band, you can get the stereo room sound and then grab ISOs off of a mixer like aux sends or buses that's
exactly
that's
it.
enough that you could get a pretty usable live mix later for like a demo or something.
This is replacing a Tascam DAP1. Remember that?
Oh,
I don't remember that.
We're not old
Now you're
enough to
going
remember
back.
that.
Well,
Was it a DAT?
Yeah, it was a DAT machine, and it had basically 2 preamps on it, and it was my kit. I had a little star case, and if I had to record an orchestra or something that wasn't like, I've got a kit where I've got a Millennia preamp and some but then you're lugging some racks, So this was my like, hey, let's just record this.
Kit.
Yeah, and it was the DAP1 and the I would use a Shure VP88 with it, and that would pair nicely with this, but it kind of has its own built in a way. And it's replacing that. Anybody want to buy a DAP1?
I remember that machine well. I had one at school years and years ago.
There was the handbag one, wasn't it? It was sort of, you slung it over your shoulder and it was top loading.
You could get a kit, like a bag that would have a little clear thing, and had and then like the Velcro on the side to get your mics in it.
That's it.
I used to have an HHB at work. That was like the mother of that same style.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could have like a little bottom module that would do time code.
Yeah.
But that does remind me, the one thing this doesn't have is there's no digital out. I mean, I guess there's the USB digital out.
Right.
But there's no SPDIF.
Not like a SPDIF or something like that.
They do have a big brother to it. There's a Zoom
the 16-track one?
Or something 8. There's one there's an 8-track model. And the 8-track model
is it the white one with faders?
No, it's not white. It looks like a bag mixer.
It's not portable, right? It's not like stick it in your pocket portable.
It's not in your hand. No,
it's more like a sound devices. Yeah.
Yeah. It's their sound
Yeah.
devices competitor,
Totally.
but way less expensive. And the 8-track model has truly 8 XLR ins.
Yep.
It's a full
and I think it's got
8-track
some
system.
much better preamps. I think the preamps are like significant step up.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more money. It's not like 800 or 1,000. It's like, maybe 500. So they still have like these step ups from what you have when you really need more. That unit probably answers a lot of the things like, oh, I wish it had digital this or that. On a unit like the size of yours, there's only physically how many places you can put stuff and have it be usable. So
Yeah.
bigger units have more room, real estate.
Cool.
Do we know which one it is? I was just Googling.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the Zoom F4 multi-track.
Well, I could.
Oh, wait, here it
the
is.
brand wrong.
The Zoom F6. It's no. I
No,
found
the
it. That
R8.
thing looks like a
The R8. No, the R8's not it either.
no.
You know what, I
It's
could have
the
the-
Zoom F6, 6 input,
the
14-track multi-track field recorder. That thing looks serious.
That's it. Yeah, the
That looks
F6.
nice.
And that is,
It's got 2 more tracks. It looks a lot beefier. That thing looks sweet.
And then you have the F8.
So how much is that over there out of interest?
The H6 or the other one?
The F6. The F6.
The F6 is $650 at B&H.
Do you know how much it is here?
$1,400.
Yeah, 1,400.
$1,400.
Wow.
And then they have the F8N, and that's an 8-in 10-track. So that does the 8 tracks with a stereo mix down, with look-ahead limiters,
Yeah.
all sorts of bells and whistles. And that one's a flat 1,000 US. So that's where you're starting to get up into the
It's probably going to have a
or really-
slating feature on it and things like that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, that compared to the competitor, which is sound devices with the same number of tracks, it's like a fraction. It's like a third the price.
Right. And probably the
So-
biggest thing sound devices can claim is the converters and the preamps. Because
So
probably some features too, but I imagine a lot of these things people don't dig into every single feature.
yeah, and you- like
This
on the high-end
F6 does
ones,
have a
it's got-
time code input.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's those little features is what takes it into the pro level. When it's got multi-pin connectors, dual memory cards, so it can overlap or have redundancy.
Yeah. One feature I'm bummed about on this is I was hoping it could record onto itself while it's also being used as an interface, but apparently not.
See, I was going to ask you if it could do that.
See,
Yeah,
that
that's what
wouldn't be
the-
hard to do now, would it? Surely.
No.
That can't be
I'm
that
sure
hard
next
to do.
gen will do that.
Yeah.
I'm
Thing
sure
is
the
just
next gen
like-
will do that.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
hopefully there's like a software, maybe there is a way to flash these things with software, who knows.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, they seem to be more into doing hardware than firmware updates, whereas this Rodecaster Pro, they just seem to bake in more and more features with updates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this thing was more portable, the fact that it can do 14 ISO tracks, including the mix down, it is mind-boggling for the price.
Yeah.
For 600. So,
right.
and record all that and go to the computer also all at the same time and more. And it's just like, God, how do they freaking do that?
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like, like even this Zoom and your podcaster kind of have some very similar features in the sense that they're both standalone recorders. Yours can
Right.
record ISOs. This one can record ISOs. Yours can record
Right.
how many physical inputs? Was it 4 mics plus an
4
aux?
mics, a USB mix, a phone input, a Bluetooth input, sound effects playback input,
Right.
like
So yeah,
everything's
sound effects,
stereo,
yeah.
and then it's the mix down.
Right.
So yeah,
But at
14
least,
tracks.
yeah, but at least 6 of those are analog inputs, not like,
It's
from
got
the real
6 analog input, right? 4
Right.
mono mic and 1 stereo input. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's got the recorder. Yours has the pads on it. Yours does not operate with a battery, correct? You need to.
That's correct. Like if you were going to make this thing run on battery, you'd have to do
Go
a
with
wacky hack.
DC
and
thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yours has faders. Yours is a
But you know
good
what?
clip bigger. I mean, yours is what,
If
the size
Rode-
of a laptop a little bit?
Yeah, this is a desktop thing. Like if Rode, they've got the AI one, they've got this. To me, there's a middle ground device they're going to make. It just seems so obvious that they're going to, now that they have the software engineering, the mic preamps, all that stuff, the support, the firmware, the investment in the technology.
Yeah, now they just need to do iterations.
They can make a tiny version of this without all the faders and buttons that just does the basic under the hood stuff. And then they have a zoom killer, for $400.
Yeah.
So, or $300. So, it seems to me obvious that they'll do that eventually.
Yep.
Yep.
I think this zoom is like street price somewhere in like depending on what options you get with it, it's like $350 maybe. And,
right.
And so, what, $200 more, and you're talking about the podcaster, right?
The Rodecaster.
The Rodecaster.
Yeah, I mean, what you're paying with the Rodecaster is, it's a physical unit with physical sliders. And sliders aren't cheap. Anytime you have a switch or a button that lights up and a knob, that's all money. So,
I'm willing to bet the profit ratio on the Rodecaster is lower than the profit ratio on the Zoom H6.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Just
I don't know
more
how you
software.
Aussies do it, but geez, these things are affordable for what you get. Does the government pay for the R&D in Australia?
No, they just pay for Fairlight.
There's no subsidizing?
Oh, the Fairlight?
Yeah, that's who they pay for. The Australian government's bailed them out.
Is that right?
Many times, like at least I believe twice.
Is that right?
Government bailed out. Yeah, you probably own a piece of Fairlight.
Yeah. Well, I want my piece back, please. But I think the reason that Rode keep everything at the price point is because of that incredible factory they have in Sydney.
Yeah.
Well, what's amazing to me is when a company decides that they don't need to make, like they could sell the stuff for more. They clearly could.
Yeah.
I mean, this unit could sell for $200 more than it is. If it came out at $699 or $799, people still would have bought it.
Yep.
So, their pricing is very aggressive. Of course, the US dollar being strong as it is a big factor in that too.
Yeah.
But it is quite remarkable what the value proposition from Rode always in the US is super strong.
But see, don't forget, they're probably also not price pointing for just professionals. They're also price pointing for weekend amateurs who want to make a podcast too. So
I think they're riding the podcast wave a little bit.
Yeah, agree.
Honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Zoom H6 was like stuck into a podcast role, but it was not designed. Like the Zoom H6 is actually a pretty old product. The
Zoom H6, you're going to see every low budget filmmaker in LA with one of these on their neck.
Yeah.
I mean, guarantee it. That's what I've seen them. I mean, if I was doing no budget filmmaking, I'd be using a Zoom H6 or something like that. So that's what it really is, its target market. But because of its flexibility, it could be used for so many other things, with the podcasting being one of them.
It's got a metronome in it too.
What?
Yeah, it's got a metronome.
Yeah.
Is that a short person that catches the underground?
So does that mean you speak to a clock when you're recording?
That is right. And maybe we can get our together.
That's a good out.
When
so yeah, that's the H6. There you go.
That was the Pro Audio Suite. If you have any questions or ideas for a show, let us know via our Facebook, the Pro Audio Suite Podcast.
You're looking for trouble.